Ukrainian army's counteroffensive around the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine starting on September 6 destroyed half of the best tank division in the best tank army in the Russian armed forces. 100 wrecked or captured tanks in 100 furious hours. That's how much destruction the Ukrainians inflicted on the Russian 4th Guards Tank Division, part of the elite 1st Guards Tank Army, the Russian Army's best armor formation. Now the 1st GTA is retreating north in order to preserve what remains of its frontline divisions. But the damage the tank army has suffered could have lasting implications, and not just for Russia's 200-day-old wider war in Ukraine. The 1st GTA had been one of the most prestigious of Russia's armies, allocated for the defense of Moscow, and intended to lead counterattacks in the case of a war with NATO, the UK. Defense Ministry explained. It will likely take years for Russia to rebuild this capability. The 1st GTA has been in the fight since the start. When Russia widened its war in Ukraine on February 24, it initially aimed to capture Kyiv and unseat the Ukrainian government. The 1st GTA led the assault on the capital city, and also led the retreat a month later after the Ukrainians won the battle for Kyiv. The survivors of the 1st GTA in particular, 2 regiments of the 4th GTD as well as 2 regiments of the 2nd Guards Motor Rifle Division redeployed to the front around Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, just 25 miles from the Russian border in northeastern Ukraine. Five months later, the 1st GTA regiment still hadn't made good all their losses. The 1st GTA suffered heavy casualties in the initial phase of the invasion and had not been fully reconstituted prior to the Ukrainian counteroffensive in Kharkiv, the UK. Defense Ministry stated. And some 1st GTA elements, apparently including the 147th Artillery Regiment, later shifted to southern Ukraine in a desperate bid to blunt a Ukrainian counteroffensive in Kherson Oblast that kicked off on August 30th. Damaged, divided, demoralized, cut off from reliable logistics owing to Ukrainian deep strikes on Russian supply lines and lacking effective air support, the 4th GTD and 2nd GMRD were no match for the dozen Ukrainian brigades, including the powerful 4th Tank Brigade, that attacked north, east and south of Kharkiv last week. The Ukrainian 4th Tank Brigade's T-72s and T-64s hit the Russian 4th GTD hard outside the city of Izium. By the time the Russian division retreated north toward the Russian border on or around September 10, it had lost around 90 T-80U tanks that independent analysts can confirm. That's half the tanks the division would possess at full strength. The Ukrainians captured many of the T-80Us intact and could fix them up, paint them with the Ukrainian Army's cross insignia and send them back into battle. The 4th GTD and 2nd GMRD and by extension the whole 1st GTA probably are unfit for further fighting. They could reconstitute, but with what and whom? The Kremlin's urgent recruitment drive is faltering. And having written off more than 1,000 tanks in Ukraine, the Russians might need years to bring depleted units back up to full strength. The Ukrainian army by contrast has more tanks now than it did before the current counteroffensives, as it has captured more Russian tanks than it has lost of its own. Drone footage shows multiple Kremlin soldiers hurtling off the out-of-control tank in Kharkiv as Ukraine continue their 30-mile advance into Russian-occupied areas. Moments after Vladimir Putin's troops are thrown from the fleeing vehicle, it is seen swerving wildly off the road. And the tank finally comes to a halt by smashing right into a tree which falls on the remaining soldiers. Ukrainian armed forces, who released the footage, appeared to mock the Russians over their vow, "We do not abandon our people." It comes after reports that Putin's forces have suffered catastrophic losses in Kharkiv, potentially turning the tide of the war. Russian soldiers reportedly raised a white flag as they fled a lightning Ukrainian advance that has reclaimed large swathes of territory. The offensive demolished Kremlin lines and allowed Ukrainian soldiers to retake 30 towns in a key part of their country. It enabled President Volodymyr Zelensky's heroes to advance as much as 30 miles south of Kharkiv. The brave Ukrainian president said in a video address, "Our army, intelligence units, and the security services are carrying out active engagements in several operational areas. They are doing so successfully. We are gradually taking control over new settlements. We are returning the Ukrainian flag and protection for our citizens everywhere." In major humiliation for Vladimir Putin, the Russian Defense Ministry admitted its troops have been forced to withdraw from the key city of Izium in the face of the onslaught. Tonight, Russia said troops were regrouping from the Balaklia and Izium areas and will be sent to reinforce operations elsewhere. The city was a major Russian bastion in the area of northeastern Ukraine it still held, and its defeat could mark a major turning point in the war. However, there have been no confirmed reports that Ukraine have recaptured Izium. Ukrainian troops also captured the city of Kupiansk further north, the sole railway hub supplying Russia's entire front line across the northeast of the country. Ukrainian officials posted photos of their troops raising the country's blue and yellow flag in front of City Hall in Kupiansk at dawn. Zelensky's men have recaptured dozens of towns and villages held by Russia for months, since bursting through the front line earlier this week.